I'd like to plug the Chase Thomas podcast. Listen to Chase Thomas. You'll be a smarter sports fan and obviously a much better human being.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Joining me at this time, fellow University of North Georgia alumni, Matt Green, down there in Decula, Georgia. Matt Green, how are you? How was the weekend? How was the tailgate situation for North Decula? Did you find seats? Was it a situation where, I mean, what's it been like in the days following the first round matchup between the Falcons and your beloved North Gwinnett Bulldogs? It was a house divided for you over the weekend.
Absolutely rowdy environment, as this typical North Gwinnett Decula matchups always are. A lot of history there. But yeah, it was a good weekend, in terms of college football. We got another exciting one and some NFL action today. But I don't even know the result of that game. Do you know the result?
Oh yeah, it was 37-7. Your Bulldogs, they won.
Bulldogs took care of business. Yeah. That's to be expected. Decula wasn't. It's 7A is the highest now, right?
Yes.
Decula wasn't always it hasn't been the highest classification for a while. I think they might be their first year back up in the highest, because it was 5A when I was in high school, and Decula had already gone down to 4A by the time I graduated. So they were always like a level below. So it's tough. First year in the big leagues, that's you're going to run into those powerhouses like the North Gwinnett Bulldogs are.
It's funny you say that, because I talked to their coach last week on the pod, and that was something I brought up where I was like, y'all, I swear, have changed classifications more than any other school in the state of Georgia. Decula has been in every classification over the last 20 years. It just
been in some weird regions too, like with Habersham Central at one point. Yeah, they've been kind of all over.
Well, the region now is brutal. They're in with Buford, Mill Creek, and I forgot who the other one is, but yeah, this is just not conducive to long-term success there. I don't think they need to get out of that region if you're Decula. It's a tough spot, because I don't
trust the process.
Trust the
talent coming in.
I mean, you just got to get out of that area.
Georgia just got to commit from basketball. Just got to commit from Decula, I believe. So we'll see. Producing some talent here, Decula Falcons. Don't sleep on us.
Us. So you've skipped. You're on us. You have now flipped from North Gwinnett.
The high school is that close to my house. I'd pull for them, but I mean, obviously, North Gwinnett got red and black going through my veins. I'm a Bulldog. I'll always be. That's the alumni right there. Alumnus, alma mater. There you go, alma mater.
Yeah. Matt Green, we have the playoff. That there was some craziness over the weekend. That the night games, folks. I hope you did not miss anything from 6 o'clock on, because that was the bread and butter of college football. Did you have to miss a lot of it? Because I was texting you a little bit during Washington, Oregon, but I had my dual set of Washington, Oregon, and Texas TCU, which was just perfect. And Georgia, Mississippi State, that slop, nowhere to be found. Not putting that slop on my television. The brother was over there. He saw it in person. I knew you were going to watch it. No need to worry about the mess that was Georgia and Starkville, Matt Green. But
I was locked in. I didn't miss a second of it.
Okay.
I was actually at my brother's house, so he had the two TVs working in his basement. So we got a flash with TCU, Texas, and Oregon, Washington on the bottom screen. So it was we kept track of it pretty well. But yeah.
Wait, which brother are we talking about? Are we talking about the brother that is friend of the program, or the brother
friend of the pod?
Okay, friend of the pod, who finds he sits on the outside. He's a lurker, and he waits for his moment to tag me in something that's anti-Tennessee. He's always ready for it. I don't know if he's got an alert for something on Twitter where if something bad happens.
He's a very loyal listener to the show, So once all the Tennessee garbage just kind of gets flowing, sometimes you gotta push back on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's ready to go. Jake is ready to go for pushing back on it. That man is locked and loaded. So I'm sure he's going to tag me in something about Tennessee losing to Colorado in basketball today of like, everything's cool, ? Eyes emoji. I'll look out for it, Jake. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
You could be right.
Well, this was a wild weekend for the college football playoff. I think we should start by who can still make the playoff and who can't, Matt Green. So you've compiled how you think this will ultimately unfold of who can and who can't. How do you want to do this?
Yeah, I got a list. I came up with 9. I think we got 9 teams that you can't. How do we phrase it? They theoretically can make the playoff, right? I don't think all 9 of these, have a realistic shot necessarily, but you can't say that they're mathematically eliminated to this point. And I think obviously you start with the top: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU. It's probably going to be the top 4 when the rankings come out on Tuesday, and then Tennessee and USC, I think, are in a solid, like, that 6 is almost like in a take care of business. It's going to be hard for you to not get in if you take care of business. I think there's obviously going to be a discussion because all 6 can't make it. But once you get to LSU, and then the last 3, LSU, Clemson, and North Carolina, I think the ACC champion is just really behind the 8 ball. A 1-loss ACC champion most likely won't get in. But if there is any kind of madness, we get a 2-loss Pac-12 champion. Tennessee trips up and loses. Who can they even lose to? South Carolina?
South Carolina is it, yeah.
Yeah, like something crazy happens, like just true chaos happening. A 1-loss ACC champion, I think, isn't mathematically ruled out yet. Where I think it's interesting is the Pac-12 champion, because when we had that Oregon and UCLA essentially being eliminated this week, having Oregon with Tennessee and that, which blowout was worse conversation, that was really hurting Oregon, because at the end of the day, Tennessee, the game was closer and it was at Georgia on a true road game. USC doesn't have that albatross, right, of a bad loss that you can put directly, like, kind of compare to someone else's resume. Like, Utah is a good team, go for 2, win by 1 point. Like, that's your 1 loss. And if they're a 1-loss Pac-12 champion, obviously the win over UCLA might not weigh as much now, right? That could be the problem, is the resume. They beat UCLA, that's a 3-loss team. They beat Notre Dame, that's now a 4-loss team. Potentially Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, that's now another 3-loss team. So maybe their resume doesn't stack up, but I feel like there is a bias to, if we can get a 1-loss conference, Power 5 conference champion in there to satisfy all the regions of the country and everything, I think there is a want to get the Pac-12 champion in. Obviously, TCU, I think, took the biggest step forward because Texas looked like the biggest obstacle still on their path. But I think for Tennessee, I'll let you give your impressions about this list. But I think at this point, the only scenario I see Tennessee not getting in the playoff is, I think, if USC is a 1-loss conference champion and TCU runs the table, I think and then obviously the Big Ten champion and Georgia get in. I think that's the only, like, perfect storm scenario where Tennessee doesn't get in the playoff. Or you're talking like Michigan, Ohio State is like this potential just amazing overtime 1-score game or something where you're like, oh, these actually might be 2 of the best 4. Like, if there's some kind of, but I don't necessarily see that. I just see if USC, and I don't even think that's a likely thing for USC to take care of business and only end the season with 1 loss. But I think if they do and TCU stays undefeated, I think that's the only scenario that keeps Tennessee out.
I mean, you look at USC schedule. It's I think they have 1 ranked win to this point, and their biggest test and really only test was Utah, and they lost. I don't think USC is strong in the committee's eyes, and I get what you're saying, where it's like you want to put the Pac-12 or you want to get as many regions involved in the playoff as possible, but I think there's a reason that Tennessee started the CFP at number 1 overall. And they haven't forgotten about the wins. And if it comes down to it, where you have a 1-loss Tennessee team versus a 12-1 USC team, the committee is going to go in there and be like, we can't good conscience put USC's body of work over Tennessee if they run the gauntlet and finish 11-1. You can't do it. And I think I saw Peter Burns of SEC, the SEC Network. Did you see his tweet today?
I don't think I did.
He tweeted. I think he talked to a odds maker at ESPN or someone who writes about sports gambling at ESPN. He asked him, like, on a neutral site, what would USC and Tennessee be at right now? What would the line be? And I think he said 7.5 for Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that for sure. I don't know. It's what is Tennessee's resume? I feel like a lot of it was hinging on that win against Alabama. Like,
I mean, LSU's win looks
LSU,
significantly bigger now.
That's a really good win too, for sure. But once if Georgia, like most people think, beats LSU handedly, they now have 3 losses. Like, is that kind of change people's opinion of LSU? Or if they somehow trip up, like, I mean, they almost lost to Arkansas this week. Like, they arguably should have lost that game the way it came out. But LSU didn't look great this week. If they somehow get tripped up and lose to Texas A&M, they're still in the SEC championship. Like, I don't know. We've seen Alabama all year just kind of look kind of mediocre playing on the road. So if that's the number one thing on Tennessee's resume, I don't know how valuable it necessarily is when you look at USC, how much just like of a trump card it is when you look at USC's resume. If you have wins over Oregon, wins over UCLA, and a win over Notre Dame, and you have that 12.
Wait, where's the Oregon win coming?
Potentially in the Pac-12 championship.
I don't think Oregon's getting in now.
Well, I mean, who's getting in?
I think Utah's going to run the gauntlet. I think we're getting like Utah, USC.
Oh, and that's an even better point. If we get Utah, USC, and they are able to beat Utah, like, I feel like the next best thing to an undefeated season is a 1-loss season when you avenge the one team that beat you, right? So,
and the funniest part is I think Washington's the best team in the Pac-12, and they're just being forgotten about. I think Washington's proven a lot. Like, if you put any given Sunday or any given Saturday and had to bet on one Pac-12 school right now above the rest to just win any game against anybody, I'd probably go to bat for Michael Penix in that offense, and we'll get to that game. But I don't know. I don't think the Pac-12 and the ACC. I mean, Oregon, I thought, had the strongest case because Oregon was beating the crap, and they were winning impressively. And even like there's a difference in the way Oregon's winning and had been winning versus USC. There was a stark contrast between the way they were rolling. They were, 30 points or more every single game?
I think it was 40 or more.
40, yeah. Bo Nix playing out of his mind. I think he's only thrown like 2 picks or something this year to this point. No, Oregon was rolling in a different capacity, and I think had a lot more sway and you could sell me on Oregon a lot more than you could USC, because you watch USC week in, week out. That does not look like one of the 4 best teams in the country. And I think the committee sees that. I will say, though, it's not that one that worries me. I think if Tennessee finishes 11-1, I think the only way they get held out of the playoff, because I think even whoever loses the Michigan-Ohio State game, I think is out based on the body of work to this point. I think they would have had to do a lot better in the style points thing, and especially if Michigan loses and with the rest of their non-conference schedule and everything else, they're not getting in over Tennessee in that situation.
I mean, in terms of style points, though, they both have them. Like, Michigan is top 10 in the country in points per game, top 5 in points per game, like defensive points per game allowed. Like, they're.
I mean, they were behind at Rutgers last week. Ohio State was down against Northwestern. It took them in the fourth quarter to run away with that one. Tennessee's not doing that. They beat Kentucky 40-46. They beat Mizzou 66 to whatever. I mean,
no, that's true.
It's a little bit different. They're not playing with their food. Tennessee is not. So maybe they do down the stretch these last 2 weeks a little bit on the road to finish. And Williams-Brice, we know, is kind of an underrated environment, and it's going to be a night game, so I'm sure it's going to be hype. And we know how Tennessee fared with loud sounds on the road 2 weeks ago, so it is something to monitor if that game gets weird. But I don't know. I think what I was going to say is that I think the only way Tennessee doesn't get in, or the thing that worries me the most, is if LSU beats Georgia. If LSU beats Georgia in the SEC title game, that's when things get super weird for the committee, because a 11-2 LSU team, but one of the losses is to the team that got blown out at home, who has 1 loss, didn't play in the SEC title. Are you going to have the cojones to put LSU in over Tennessee and jump them for beating Georgia, who Tennessee lost to? But again, we saw it at home earlier this season where Tennessee beat the living hell out of them. I don't know what the committee does in that situation. I lean they would put in the SEC winner. I think they would probably put in LSU over Tennessee. And if you thought Tennessee fans were obnoxious before, and you thought things were bad before, you put in a 11-2 LSU team over Tennessee, and you leap them to get your 2 SEC teams in the playoff. Oh man, I don't think the good folks, even the committee, even wants that, because the calls, the emails, everything else for months after that will be never ending.
Are you inciting something right now?
I'm not inciting something. I am saying that, like, I've seen how things have gone in past coaching searches here on Rocky Top, and I've seen situations at home with a certain rival in town with mustard bottles and golf balls. Like, history tells me I would just be a little concerned about the scenario of LSU hopping Tennessee to make the playoff if they were to finish this thing out and win the SEC. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm going to be the biggest Georgia fan on the SEC championship Saturday in a few weeks. I'm just going to be go Dogs, like sick 'em. Yeah, how about those Dogs, right? Lad McConkey, he's got a little bit of Wes Welker in him. Stetson Bennett, that guy's a gamer. I see number 1 overall pick with Stetson Bennett. Todd Monken, I don't know what we're seeing with Josh Heupel. Like, Todd Monken, that man's a genius. Like, run the football, throw the football, you plug and play when you're at the University of Georgia.
I know you're being sarcastic right now, but Todd Monken.
I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just saying I'm going to amp all of it up. I'm just going to be the ultimate Dog fan in a couple of weeks. And that's your one time. You'll get it from me. Yeah,
for sure. That's going to be the craziest scenario, I think. I was actually having this conversation with my brother on Saturday. He's insisting that SEC champion will not be kept out of the playoff, and it's really hard to see the SEC champion getting held out of the playoff. Like, the best precedent we really have is 2016 Ohio State Penn State, with them being a 2-loss Big Ten champion, and they beat Ohio State, and they still put Ohio State in the playoff because that was their only loss.
That's a Tennessee situation there.
Win LSU, but the only difference is, like, Tennessee smashed this 2-loss team at their place. So I'm not really sure how you could justify. It's like the reason Tennessee's not in the SEC championship game is because the SEC East is better than the SEC West essentially this year, right? Like, there's 2 1-loss or undefeated teams at the top of this division of the conference, and that's not the case on the other one. So it's really hard to see, and I think, basically, going back to talking on USC, I don't think that's the most likely scenario. And so I think just looking at what they've been all year, I don't see them. I think, like, that's the perfect storm of Tennessee getting out of the play, not getting in the playoff. I just don't see USC really running the table at this point for all the reasons we said. And so with really what it comes down to, like, I think Tennessee is definitely going to get one of those playoff spots. I'm really curious to see what they do with the seeding when it comes to a potential Georgia-Tennessee rematch. But TCU is also, like, the Big 12, like, let's not pretend we have the Big 12 figured out now, right? There's 2 weeks left and a conference championship. If TCU is a 1-loss conference champion, I think there's still some conversation of TCU getting, like, the 4 seed over,
how confident are you? I think they drop out. Like, I think Clemson or UNC would jump them as a 1-loss team if TCU drops 1. I don't think the committee wants to do this. I don't think they want to put TCU in there.
But see, I think Tennessee is like the clear 3 at that point.
Yeah.
Once you are behind the winner of Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah.
But then I think TCU, I mean, they have a better resume than say the loser of Ohio State, Michigan won at that point, and then the 1-loss ACC champion. If there's a 2-loss Pac-12 champion, like, I don't know who's getting in over TCU at that point. If there's still a 1-loss Big 12 champion, like, but
it's just funny too, because I read
or something like that.
Someone tweeted this where, and I forgot where I got this from, but I thought this was illuminating, because what I've been saying on this podcast for the last, like, 3 weeks is we already know who the 4 best teams in the country are, and we're just finding ways. And there's no disrespect to TCU, USC, whatever.
We don't know.
We know Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Tennessee are the 4 best teams in college football this year. We know that. They are a combined 203-60 against conference opponents.
Of course, those teams look like the best right now, but, like, TCU, according to what people think and what Las Vegas says, TCU should have lost this past week by 7, but they didn't. Like, we don't know all of this. Like, TCU is undefeated. Like, I think the Big 12 has been a really solid conference. Like, I don't know for a second that Ohio State or Michigan is for a fact is better than TCU. Like I can't.
I mean, if you put I know for like, I shouldn't say I know for a fact. My gut tells me the committee wants no part of TCU Georgia in the quarterfinal. They do not want to do Georgia Hawaii.
But I mean, who do they want? I'd rather see Georgia TCU than Georgia Tennessee.
They're not going to do that either. They're not going to do a rematch. They're going to separate them because remember they can do whatever they want. They don't have to just put 1-4 and you only get to move up a certain way. They're going to put it for the best television matchup, and they're going to avoid because I think Georgia. What was it last year where Georgia should have been after losing the SEC title game? They got the 3rd spot, right? And Cincinnati was at 4. Is that right? Didn't they?
Yeah,
split
but
up
that's how
way?
It should have been.
I don't think so. I think Georgia should have been 4.
Cincinnati should have been ahead of Georgia.
I think. I mean, they were undefeated. I don't know.
On AAC schedule.
I don't know. You lost. Your last win, you got rewarded for losing.
Cincinnati wouldn't have been ahead of Oklahoma State.
All right, you won the national title. What are we doing? You won the national title, Matt.
No,
and
don't. I don't want to see foul play suggested. Georgia was clearly better than Cincinnati last year. Cincinnati was just glad they got an invite.
Well, either way, what I'm saying is, I don't think, like if it's Tennessee, my gut tells me, and this is what I was telling my uncles and family in the group thread last night. Like, I'm cheering for TCU each week, and we'll get into TCU in Texas. Like, they're just an easy team to root for. Like, it's a really fun story. And TCU, I don't think has to lose for Tennessee to still make the playoff. I think the main thing is you need to have LSU lose to Georgia, and I think you need probably just to feel a little bit better, a little bit more Pac-12 action of killing each other. You may need one more of those, like USC doing it, and then you're in good shape. Because I don't think they're going to put in the loser of the Michigan Ohio State game over Tennessee. I don't think that's the case. That being said, if Tennessee does make it in, they're not going to pair them with Georgia in round 1. It will be Tennessee versus Ohio State and or Michigan in the first round. I just lock that in. If Tennessee runs the gauntlet the next 2 weeks, that's how it will go. They'll get that one, which will be, the network. And that's part of this is the networks want. You get Ohio State's offense and C.J. Stroud against Hendon Hooker and the Tennessee offense. The committee has to think about stuff like that. That is going to be a good game. That is going to get ratings. That is going to be the high-flying action that you want in one of those games. And then you're like, all right, we'll sacrifice the other one, Georgia TCU, where that won't be over by the end of the first quarter. And people can move on, and we'll see what happens in the actual finals and the week or 2 weeks or whatever after.
But how does the committee justify that at this point?
They don't have to. Who cares? They're the committee.
At this point, and that's why I didn't understand why they went ahead and put TCU ahead of Tennessee. That's why it didn't make any sense because
there's no rhyme or reason. That's why Tennessee doesn't know what to do right now. That's why Tennessee dropped 66. They're like, are we supposed to stop? Like, why do we go from 1 to 5? How did TCU jump us in a week when we were at number 1? Like, and we only like.
Well, and that's why it didn't make any sense. And they honestly didn't help themselves out because if you continue to keep Tennessee has absolutely nothing to gain on starting with this Missouri game and now South Carolina, then Vanderbilt. There's nothing that was going to improve their resume from this point out. TCU is going to beat Texas like they just did. Who else they have? Baylor, somebody else, Iowa State. I want to say is
and
their
then Kansas State again in the championship, and we've seen what Kansas State do.
It's like those are way more good data points to be like if you need to manipulate the ratings somehow at the end. Like, yeah, we'll put TCU ahead of Tennessee, but you could have just made your mind up. Like, yeah, TCU's had some good wins, but you know what Tennessee did early? We couldn't ignore that. So I think their resume is still better. And it's boom, Tennessee's 3, TCU's 4. But the way they've done it now, Tennessee can't do anything to jump TCU. So you're just going to be like, you know what? We don't want to see Georgia, Tennessee again. So they're going to be number 3. TCU's like, what? What the hell is this? We got to play Georgia first round now? Like,
but they're going to do that. I promise you, they do not do Georgia, Tennessee in the first round. Promise you. There's a reason. They haven't done it yet. They haven't done an SEC versus SEC team to start yet.
No, and I don't want them to. Yeah. So, I mean, I hope we do avoid that matchup. But, yeah, it's getting – I hope you're right. I think Tennessee, Ohio State is a matchup that a lot of people want to see from an offense versus offense perspective. But that Tennessee Michigan rivalry that goes deep. That goes back to the Charles Woodson stealing Peyton Manning's Heisman days. So that'll also be a good one. So I don't know. It's looking like it's gonna be hard to keep the Vols out of the CFP.
Hate to see it.
I think it takes that perfect storm, and I just don't see it happening.
Hi, Jake. Balls in the playoff.
And the one-loss ACC, we didn't really get to that.
No, they're not in. Like you threw them in. I don't think there's a path. I think there's no respect there. Where did Clemson fall?
Where did Clemson fall? Just what are the rankings that just came out, like the AP poll this week?
No, I'm talking about the CFP rankings. Where did they fall to?
I'd have to look.
Clemson, I think, went to 10, right?
This past week, I think you're right. Mine's not pulling up right now.
They went to 9.
Okay.
I don't see them moving up. North Carolina's at 13 right now.
Yeah, but
I don't think there's a path. But I will say, Drake May in the college football playoff, would like to see it. I don't think they can win a playoff game, but I would like to see Drake May play football one more time. I would like to see if Georgia was able to slow them down. That'd be fun. Throw UNC in there. Why not? Drake May. It'd be fun. Clemson, keep them the hell out. No chance. Get them out of here. We don't want Clemson in the college football playoff. Matt Green, speaking of UNC, we get the conference clinchers. We get UGA, LSU clinched in the SEC. We also get Clemson versus North Carolina in the ACC title game. Which one are you more intrigued by, Matt Green?
I'd say I'd have to be more intrigued by Georgia LSU because it's the SEC championship. But obviously, I think North Carolina Clemson is going to be a good game. I think it's good to see. But like we're just talking about, maybe we're seeing the number 8 team versus number 10 in the conference championship, and you're like, oh, this was a entertaining game, and then you turn your TV off. You don't think about the ACC for the rest of the year. It's like this LSU Georgia just has something on the line. Like maybe LSU has an outside chance. I still feel like it's hard to justify them jumping into the playoff. I think they need a little bit of chaos. Like if you're comparing, I don't know, it feels like you need 3 SEC teams to make the playoff for LSU to be able to get in there. It's hard to justify them ahead of Tennessee. But just from that storyline, I think Georgia seeing number 1 versus number 5, number 6 at that point in the season will be just a much more interesting game. It's the SEC championship. I think the 5th time we've seen Georgia LSU in the SEC championship, and Georgia's 1-3 in those games to this point. So DJ Shockley and that gang was the only one that could get it done. I think
Don't you dare. Don't do this. The Dogs better not do this. Don't do this. Don't give Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers a playoff spot. Don't just tank to keep Tennessee out. I don't want this. Kirby, you're better than this. Don't even think about it. Go for it. He does it every week in the post game where I watch this book game. It's hard, man. These dudes are hard to play against. Week in, we got a different kind of offense. I do like though that Kirby mentioned this week, because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, Tennessee runs the Baylor stuff. Run the air raid. It's not what we do whatsoever. And Kirby talked about it. He's like, no, the air raid was this week with Mississippi State, and he called Tennessee's offense just something else. I forgot what the actual terminology, but he made it a point where it's like you're playing the triple option one week, the air raid one week, and then something else the other week. And it's really hard to prepare week over week when you have those different kind of teams. And now you get to go back to more of what you're accustomed to against Kentucky this week. That's easier to prepare for because it's just more of a traditional style as opposed to what Tennessee and Mississippi State and others have run in the past. So I'm glad he made that differentiation because that's just such a lazy thing I've seen where it's like Tennessee's running the Baylor scheme, and I'm like, no, Tennessee is not running the Baylor scheme. And I don't know if you saw, but they are running the football with Mr. Dylan Sampson in the second half. He passed Eddie Lacy and his all-time Louisiana State running record. So Dylan Sampson, watch him. Great burst. We'll talk more Tennessee LSU or Tennessee Mizzou. I know you're excited. Last thing before we get into our week 11 recap, week 12. What was this? Week 11?
This was week 11, sir. It was a doozy, my friend.
Well, hold on. Before we get into it, very quickly, Carnell Williams, because we're not going to talk about Texas A&M Auburn on the show and what happened. Cadillac gets his first win as the Auburn head coach, interim head coach. Great story. Easy guy to root for. Jimbo and the A&M Aggies are now eliminated from bowl contention, which is just insane for a preseason number 6? Is that where they were before the year?
Yeah.
Hard to see. I don't even know when the last preseason number 6 did not even go bowling. That's
the last
bonkers.
one. The most recent, I think, was Texas back in 2010. The year after Colt McCoy left and won the national championship. I think they were preseason 5. Was it Garrett Gilbert? Was he the starter?
Yeah.
And I think they missed a bowl game. And then I want to say, did Michigan, the year they got upset by App State, first game of the season, did they miss a bowl game completely that year? Or maybe they just dropped out. They didn't finish top 25, but I was thinking they may have missed a bowl game. But I think they were preseason like 5 or 7 or something like that.
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I'll pull that up a little bit later. Matt Green, how did we do this weekend? I know I followed my heart. This is one of those sad things. And if I could play and license the music, I would play the Titanic song, where I went down with the Sam Hartman ship. I went down with the Tulane ship because I let my heart cloud my mind, Matt Green. I knew UNC was going to beat Wake. I knew UCF was going to beat Tulane, but I was like, Tulane's a fun story. Sam Hartman, our women, all in on Sam Hartman from the looks department. You know it. It's just easy to root for him. Got the eyes, bone structure, facial hair, all that. It's what you want in a leader. And
take it easy over there.
I don't know. I'm kind of concerned. I know I got the big one, the big upset, my upset lock of the week. Mind you, the Washington Huskies over the Oregon Ducks. But how did we do this weekend? I feel like I did well against the spread. That's my thought off the dome, Matt Green.
Well, you painted a very fancy picture there, sir. All just to say that I made up some ground on you. Let's put it that way. So against the spread, we have a new leader on the season. I went 8-2-1 against the spread this week. You, on the other hand, went 6-4-1. And now I lead by 1 game, 62-58-4 on the season to your 61-59-4. So 3 weeks to go, neck and neck against the spread. And then I also made up some ground overall as well. You were 7-4 overall, a solid performance on the week. Your boy over here went 9-2 overall. So big time week.
Hold on. Excuse me?
Yeah.
You went what?
9-2.
And I went what?
7-4.
Oh, 7-4. At least 6-4. I was like, did you cop a game for me? I was like, what happened there? Okay.
Yeah, you went 7-4. I went 9-2. You are now 84-40 on the season, and I'm 79-45. So just 5 games back. Really eating into that lead this past 2 weeks. I've made up 5 games on you in just the past 2 weeks alone overall. So
all favorites from here on out. Got to sit on the lead. Nothing but favorites the rest of the way. Can't do it. Got to lock it in.
So so we'll see how it turns out. And then Zeus as well. I don't know. As you remember, there was no home dog of the week he really liked on that sheet, but he knew the Oklahoma Sooners could not go into Morgantown, West Virginia, and get that win. So West Virginia Mountaineers were correct, and Zeus is 7-5 home dog of the week on the season.
Well, Matt Green, do you have your green line stat of the weekend before we get started here in our pick'em?
No, let's just jump into it. I didn't have one this weekend. I couldn't come up with it.
All right, there you go.
You put me on the spot there. I gotta come clean.
Putting him on the spot for a sheet that has been there all week, every single week. The man has not been put on the spot. This is not a new.
That's true. It's right there in the rundown.
Every week. College football. It's our week 11 recap. Matt Green. I think we should start with Texas TCU, where College Game Day was. This was weird because they brought this up on the broadcast and I can't figure it out either. Is like why Texas can't develop offensive linemen. I think they had a stat of just a couple dudes who've been drafted in the last 15 or so years, basically since the Vince Young era.
Exactly. That was the stat. That was insane to me.
Yeah, because they're bringing in 5-stars. It's not like they have a dearth of talent. There's a bunch of dudes in the state of Texas they're able to bring in. Just they can't develop them. Doesn't matter who is the offensive line coach, Flood, Herb Hand, whoever. It's just not working. And I don't know. That just seemed like the thing to me is they lost in the trenches, and you would not expect Texas to lose in the trenches against TCU, but they did. And I thought it was interesting. There was a lot of big boy catches from Quentin Johnson. This one who maybe looked a little bit like Calvin Johnson with some of these catches. Like he's just a huge, huge receiver, and he made some big slant first down catches in this one. He was awesome. Big fan of Quentin Johnson. Max Duggan stood in the pocket. He was great and found Quentin on a lot of those big plays. There was a big Kendry Miller scamper that kind of caught everybody by surprise. And, he broke through and it was like 70-yard run. And that was a big moment in the game. Another thing too is bad field position for Texas. They just could not get out of their inside of their own 10 and inside of their own 20. They were always having to go 90, 80 yards, a lot of penalties. And TCU, to Texas' credit, started multiple drives inside the Texas territory, and Texas ensured that they came away with no points. And I thought that was going to be the end of TCU. It's like you cannot have 3 drives in the first half start in Texas territory and come away with 0 points. Like this is how you lose a road game to a team with a lot more talent and built to go 4 quarters with you. And Texas just never quite got there. They never quite figured it out enough on offense. They never found Worthy enough, Whittingham enough. Our old friend Jaleel Billingsley made an appearance in this one. Bijan was never able to break the big one like Kendry Miller to kind of even this game. I came away extremely impressed from TCU because they won a game in a very different way on the road where, like you said, 7-point dogs, and they just took care of business again. They keep finding ways to win, but I also thought they were the better team on Saturday. I thought that was pretty clear. They were better coached, and they just dominated the Texas OL, which I did not anticipate coming in. Matt Green, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I agree with basically most of what you said. My biggest takeaway was the defense being played in this game. I think a lot of people are looking at this, and it's always kind of a catch 22, right? When you look at these Big Ten games, you're like, look at Iowa versus whoever. They can't play offense. But sometimes it is just the defense is just making that many plays. And that's what it felt like in this. I guess you also have the benefit of like knowing these 2 offenses are good and capable of making big plays. But like for Texas, it was the pass rush. Like they were just all over Duggan the whole first half of this game for the most part. And then, like you said, with TCU's run defense, holding Texas to 28 yards rushing, just like it was a very impressive performance. And like you said as well, like to see them win a game in a different style like this, I thought was the most impressive part about TCU. And I mean, also like you look at the box score, like, oh, you think maybe Texas scored 1 touchdown. It's like, no, just a scoop and score. So like the offense didn't score 1 touch, didn't even get in the end zone in this game. So I thought it was super impressive. Obviously a hostile environment, like big game atmosphere. And for TCU to go on the road, this was a huge win.
Yes, absolutely. We'll see what happens this weekend where they go on the road at Baylor, and we'll get into Baylor and what happened to them momentarily. Let's go to your Georgia Bulldogs next, Matt Green. Let's talk about what happened in Starkville. You go first. You watched this game in full. What did you see?
Well, I think you saw another game where Georgia, if they turn the ball over, then they look beatable. And so they're, Stetson Bennett threw a couple interceptions in this one, and one of them's just, a ball getting batted down at the line of scrimmage, and the defensive lineman intercepting it, a little fluky. But I think this offense is it's really explosive. Ladd McConkey, I think he's really. Like he had some struggles mid-year. I think it was the Kent State game where it was like 3 or 4 games in a row. Some people say he was battling an injury, or I don't know. It felt like he wasn't like a confident. Like he didn't seem like he was as confident of a player. Like dropping balls, like not really making plays after the catch. I think you've seen the last couple weeks the Tennessee game now against Mississippi State. Like this guy, he's a playmaker. And so his big run, I thought, really changed things around him. Like, because they dominated the first half of this game. Like it was 17-3, I want to say. Like Mississippi State hadn't really moved the ball at all. And then they took that punt to the house. So that really kind of made the score line look like it, or 17-6, I want to say, when that happened. So that really made the score line kind of look like it had been a close game. But I mean, kudos to Mississippi State and their special teams. It's been one of the best in the SEC this year. So like that's part of their team, and that's a play they made. But yeah, and then you just saw Georgia, like it got a little close, but then you saw this Georgia offense just, they just took care of business, ended up dropping 45. I thought you saw Stetson's highlight reel touchdown, just absolutely making the defender look silly. That's the second time he's done that this year. He did that against South Carolina as well. But yeah, I think Georgia was not really able to run the ball in this one. It was if you take away McConkey's like 70-yard touchdown run, I mean, they really had I think it was like 32 carries for just over 100 yards. So Mississippi State did a really good job of kind of forcing Georgia to throw the ball. But I think that's what Georgia is now that they weren't two or 3 years ago. Was you take away the run and they're still able to beat you through the air. So yeah, I thought it was still a good, impressive performance from Georgia. I was a little worried about eating my words because I felt like I was a little brash against Will Rogers being overrated, but I think he kind of saw what Will Rogers is. It's like this offense, they throw short stuff, and against a team like Georgia that tackles as well as they do, like you're not going to bust any of these short throws into bigger gains. Like if Tennessee wasn't able to do that, like Mississippi State's not going to be able to do that. So yeah, it was interesting for a couple quarters, but Georgia for the most part took care of business.
It's interesting too because we talked about it in the pregame. What's it going to be like with Stetson on the road? And clearly, there's a pattern now. Like we were talking about where he's 50%, 55% on the road with Mizzou, and what he did against Kent State, where Georgia, like it really comes down to Stetson in a lot of ways. Where if he throws 2 picks, all right, the door is open a little bit. I thought the rushing was interesting. I don't know what you saw that Mississippi State did because Dejon Edwards was not a factor in this one. We had a weird Kendall Milton sighting, who was the most consistent back for Georgia in this one, which was odd. I thought Kenny McIntosh didn't run the ball well at all.
I think with Milton, it was really just the run at the very end of the game, though.
Okay.
Like it was like the 35-yard run to kind of seal it.
Okay.
Because he really hardly played in this one.
Lab McConkey obviously had the biggest run in this one for a touchdown, but Bowers and Darnell both get TDs. So you saw the best of the 2 tight end sets from Georgia in this one. I just thought it was weird too. Mississippi State could not run at all on Georgia, but they were still in it for a little bit. But there's just a point in the second half where you're like, man, I don't know. It felt like another win that I'm sure Kirby wasn't sweating. Were you ever at any point like, all right, Mississippi State's doing some stuff that could give them a win and this could get weird in the fourth quarter? Or do you feel like even with Stetson's turnovers and not being able to run the football on Mississippi State that you were still in good shape?
Yeah, I think after they took that punt to the house, like right before halftime, I think, and then they didn't get the 2-point conversion. So it's 17-12 going into the half. And then Georgia got the ball to start the second half. And that's, I don't know if it was the third play where McConkey breaks the 70-yard touchdown run. It's like just the fact that you started the second half like that, got up, 2 scores. It's like, the game never really felt in question. Like, so yeah, I would say it was more of a playing with your food. I know a lot of people are saying that these days. It kind of felt like that more than anything else. It's not to take away credit from Mississippi State, because also the first interception Stetson threw, it's like that was pressure Mississippi State had on the quarterback. Like they hit his arm as he was throwing a deep ball. So Stetson just kind of put a duck up there that was easy to intercept. So it's obviously a play Mississippi State made, but yeah, he also had a couple questionable throws into coverage. So I don't know. I think this Georgia team, I think it's just, that's what's so dangerous about them, is that if you can take away the run, I think there's still enough weapons, and they're doing all this without AD Mitchell since like the third game of the season, who is the best receiver on this team. So I feel like Georgia's receivers are like a commonly criticized group, but it's weird that it's like, yeah, but they also have like the greatest tight end like duo that's like ever been seen on one team, like they're also pass catchers on the same team. It feels like that kind of balances things out a little bit. So it's also Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint. Like you've seen him come on in recent weeks, as well as McConkey. McConkey is a playmaker. Like he might be a little white guy that's like a 2-star, 3-star recruit, and so people kind of don't give him. He's got the sneaky athletic reputation and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, he's a legitimate playmaker. He's a slot receiver that can go deep as well. He's seen, there's been multiple games where he's beaten receivers deep. So, or beaten the defensive backs deep. So, and then just having Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington, I threw out this comparison the other day. The closest thing I can really think of to that combination, and they're not these guys because they're not the exact same, is when the Patriots had Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. Like, they're two guys that are just so different. Obviously, Gronkowski was the one that put up huge numbers, and Washington doesn't put up huge numbers like that. But the way Brock Bowers makes plays after the catch, like Aaron Hernandez is really the only other tight end I can remember really being used that way. Like, yeah, just throw it to him at the line of scrimmage and this guy will make somebody miss, break some tackles. It's just absurd. In the how useful Darnell Washington is in the run game as well. Like, this guy, I'm telling you, like, he might go pro with like 2 career touchdowns. He caught his second career touchdown. He might go pro this year because scouts can just see, like, yeah, this guy is a monster. Like, I've told you before, like, you can't tell me that there's a second tight end in the country that's better than Darnell Washington. Like, they're just this combination Georgia has. And so as a total body of pass catchers, I think Georgia has as good of weapons as anyone in the country. It's just maybe their wide receivers aren't the elite of the elite, but they still have some solid playmakers.
Absolutely. Let's go to Oregon, Washington next, Matt Green. Woof. Okay. This was my favorite game of the weekend. I don't know if it got favorite for you, Matt Green, but goodness gracious. Dan Lanning, as someone who watched Brian Kelly's decision making in the LSU Tennessee game up close and personal, that really screwed the Tigers early in that one. Dan Lanning's were significantly worse because of what was involved, where this is now put up or shut up time. You're playing for your playoff lives. You went out, you're in probably pretty good shape. Like, I understand year one for Lanning at Oregon. You are playing for the college football playoff. You are playing for just big time, get the Pac-12 back in the playoff for the first time in 6 years. The 4th down decision making, he had 2, and I think people are going to forget the 2 before the half, where if they don't get this, they run the clock down, the play clock down, and they let it get down to 1, and it looks like they're just trying to draw Washington off sides. Inside, I think it was like they're 30 something. It was 35 maybe. And Bo Nix has a QB sneak at the last moment, and he barely gets it. And you're like, oh my God, what are we doing? And they run it out, and they get to the half and all that. That was bonkers. Bonkers number 1. You can't do it. That would have been an easy 3 points for Washington because their kicker's good. And then
that was on their own 33 with 31 seconds left.
Insanity. Then you go on the flip side. He doesn't learn his lesson. Bo Nix got hurt, so he gets his ankle rolled up. I don't know if you saw today. I haven't seen what is officially his injury from last night, but he gets knocked out of the game, right? Ty Thompson goes in. Bo Nix, who had been great, I think he was averaging like 10 yards per attempt. Like, Bo Nix was awesome in this football game, and it was an unbelievable duel to watch him and Michael Penix go back and forth. They decide to go for it on 4th down. Bo Nix comes back in the game, like clearly hobbled, clearly not in great shape, but he's begging to come back in the game. Inside, where was it, Matt Green? Is it inside their 30? Where is this one?
This last one, it was on the 34 with
34-yard line. They don't get it. And he gets hit, incomplete, Washington ball. Washington kicks a field goal. They go up, and then you go down the field, last little bit. Bo Nix clearly not right in this last drive for the Ducks. And then there's a crazy out-of-bounds, inbounds thing where it's like, did he push him out and then he came back in, or did he not? But you can't review that. You can't review if the player was pushed out and come back in. And
you didn't really have a definitive angle if he
was
and I
don't
completely out of bounds either. But
right,
you got to trust, I guess, the line judge that's right there.
Exactly. And they just... I just, that decision to go for it on 4th down, it flipped everything. It cost Oregon the game. It was one of those where it's Bo's not even right. Like, you're doing this when Bo's not even 100%. And I don't know who was in his ear telling him to do this, but it was one of the worst fourth down play calls I've ever seen. One of the worst coaching meltdowns I've ever seen. That's a lot to win trust back from the fans for that one. That's going to be something that stings for a while because it knocks you out of the playoff. It knocks you out of what could have been a special season because look, Bo Nix has been incredible. Like this Oregon team looks like they could be in the playoff. Like this felt like a playoff type team for them.
Mm-hmm.
And to throw it away for that. And again, there was some great stuff in this one. Bo Nix, they led a 10-minute drive in the fourth when Michael Penix Jr. had one of the most bonkers interceptions at the goal line where he could have just thrown it away and he just airmails it when he's scrambling to his right to a Ducks linebacker. And the Ducks proceed to keep the ball for 10 minutes and then end it with a QB draw touchdown by Bo Nix that was beautifully scripted. What a gut-wrenching way to lose. And this game had it all, but woo! What do you think of it, Matt Green?
So the only decision I can think of off the top of my head that was worse, just so easily a second guess, was the Kirby Smart, the fake punt against Alabama in 2018. Only because in that scenario, Alabama just wasn't scoring on Georgia every single time. I think that's the one, because I was shocked listening to the cover three, their instant reaction earlier today, that Tom Fornelli was the only one that was even disagreeing with this call. Like they were acting like, well, yeah, this is what you have to do in this scenario. Like you got to go for this. And I'm like, what are you even talking about?
Wait,
like
they were saying he should, like that was the right call. The second one?
Yeah, everyone except Tom Fornelli is like, absolutely not. Like, especially like both of me and you were texting, like, yeah. Without Bo Nix in the game, like I can play devil's advocate for it because Washington was absolutely torching Oregon, right? So you're just saying we can't afford to give them the ball back. They're going to score on us and beat us, right? So I guess that's the logic. But without Bo Nix in the game, okay, make them do that, right? Don't just give them the ball on the 30-yard line. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing, like without Bo Nix in the game. Because like you said, Bo Nix had been so good. He's such a dynamic player. Like you put it in his hands on fourth down, like he's got an opportunity to scramble, run for it, or throw for it, like make something happen. But with a true freshman in there, does Washington really think, or I'm not sure true freshman, but with a backup quarterback in there, does Washington really think that Oregon's going to pass here? Like they went all out against the run and they absolutely, like the guy slipped, but they blew that play up. Like it was one of the worst coaching decisions I've ever seen. I just can't imagine like even a minute 26 with multiple timeouts, like that's a long time in college football, but like make them come down and beat you. Like you're still at home. You got that home crowd behind you. Like, I don't know. It just, I can't understand.
Wait, am I misremembering? Did Bo Nix not come in for the fourth down or did he? I thought he did.
No, Bo Nix still wasn't in the game for that.
Oh, I thought he came back for that fourth down. So he came back in for the final drive. I thought he was in for that final. I thought he was in for the fourth down, played the handoff. So he didn't hand it off to him. It was Thompson. No. Okay.
And that's I feel like that was the worst part to me. Yeah. It's like if Bo Nix
you're not throwing it with Ty Thompson there.
No, there's just no chance that I couldn't get it. Like you said, it almost spoiled like what was like the best game of the day. Like this game had everything. Michael Penix put the team on his back. Like he
put the team on his back, though.
I wasn't gonna reference it again, but exactly like. It was so that's the only thing I can kind of defend it is that you kind of reading the game that like if we give the ball back to Washington, they're just going to come down and score on us anyway. Maybe we can try to pick this up, but oh man, that's me trying to play devil's advocate. At the time, I'm just thinking, what the hell are they doing? You seeing this, Jake? You seeing this? What the hell are they doing? Like it was insane.
Michael Penix. 11.7 yards per attempt, 2 TDs, 400 yards through the air. Jalen McMillan had one of those catches you don't see very often where he rips it out of the Oregon defender's hands, which should have been a pick, and he comes down with it and like he fights for it. And I think it was probably an Oregon pick, but he wrestled it out of him as they were going down and when they were on the ground. But that was a big moment. He had a bonkers throw down the left side that went for 70 yards where just the arm strength from Michael Penix is just... He was incredible. Kalen DeBoer is doing a great job with the Huskies, but huge win for them. I'm curious if they make the Pac-12 title game. They're a really fun team. You got the Apple Cup left, and I don't know who's their remaining opponent. Matt Green? You're the Husky
I'm not
expert.
sure off the top of my head.
We go to
But
UW
man,
in a couple of years.
You can have Michael Penix, man. Me and my guy Mel Kiper. We want Will Levis.
Colorado at home. So yeah, they should. I mean, they should finish what 10-2.
Yeah, I would think so. But they won't get into the Pac-12 championship.
Can they not? No matter what.
I'm not sure there's really a scenario for them to get in.
Because they have 2 Pac-12 losses.
They have 2. I mean, there's so many teams with 2 losses right now. I don't even know what the scenarios are. We should probably revisit that now that I'm looking at this. USC's 9-1, and we got 4 teams at 8-2. I know we got Utah, Oregon this week. So yeah, things could get a little.
I was gonna say, wait, they have to be able. They only have 1 loss, and it's Arizona State on the road.
No, they have 2 conference losses.
Who's the other one?
I'm who?
Washington. I think they only have 1.
I'm looking at the standings right now. I can look at their schedule, but actually, Oregon and Utah only have 1 conference loss. So,
USC, I forgot they lost to UCLA. Utah. Yes, they lost to UCLA too. I forgot they lost back to back. Okay.
So yeah, UCLA and Washington are both 5-2 in the conference. Mm-hmm. Utah, Oregon are 6-1, and then USC 7-1.
Yeah, they're not getting in. Yeah, there's no way. They just played spoiler to keep. You know what it was? Chris Peterson dialed it up, and he's like, "We are the last Huskies. We are the last Pac-12 team to make the playoff. Let's keep it that way. Kick them out. Let's do it."
I mean, if that's whatever helps you sleep at night, I guess. I can't. It wasn't a good thing for the Pac-12. I think Oregon had a legit shot. You know why? I had this whole thing prepared for our college football playoff talk next week, but now Oregon's blown it. So what I was going to say to you that it kind of hit me. These were shower thoughts. Had an epiphany while I was in the shower, and I was like, the committee is not going to keep Oregon out for Tennessee because basically you're telling the Pac-12, don't ever schedule a game like Oregon, like Georgia or an SEC big time non-conference opponent, because that's going to keep you from getting in the playoff. If Oregon was sitting at 1 loss and it was just to Georgia, I think that tiebreaker would almost be like, hey, you guys went out and played someone like Georgia. We're going to put you in the playoff. But it's a moot point now because Oregon's got 2 losses, and Dan Lanning just I don't want to blame it all on that decision because it was obviously a really good game. And I think Dan Lanning is still a good coach. But, man, a head scratcher for sure.
There you go. Ole Miss, Alabama. The sky is not falling for Alabama, as they look like they are well on their way to finishing 10-2, get double-digit.
You don't think 10-2 is the sky falling at Alabama? The sky is absolutely falling at Alabama.
The sky is fine. Bama's fine. They win late, big win late. Lane Kiffin throws his clipboard on the ground as Jackson Dart misses Mingo in the end zone. Great defensive play by Bama. Great goal line stand in this one, but Gibbs only 6 carries, 3 yards, and then Quinshon Jenkins, who's just been awesome for the Rebs all season long. He ran all over Bama in this one. Didn't matter. 3 TDs, no picks for Bryce Young. Solid. They scored on 4 consecutive possessions in the second and third quarter to get back in this one. I think they were down 17-7 early. But here's the thing. Ole Miss and Alabama, Matt Green, are well on their way to finishing 10-2 apiece. Top of the SEC West is going to be fine. They might have 3 10-win teams at the end of the season. Pretty wild. And also back-to-back 10-win seasons for Kiffin at Lane at Ole Miss. Pretty good stuff if you're the Auburn Tigers looking for your next coach. I'm not sure you'll find anything better.
You're counting an awful lot of chickens before they're hatching there, sir. I'm just saying, Ole Miss, they still got Arkansas. They still got Mississippi State.
We know how Mike Leach is in rivalry games. We can go ahead and pencil that one in.
They haven't clinched that 10-2 by any means.
They're well on their way. Like 9-3, I think, is worst case scenario. And 10-2 and 9-3 in back-to-back years at Ole Miss is still big time.
No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought Jahmyr Gibbs. I really want to know what the story is there with Jahmyr Gibbs not playing like basically at all in the second half. This team, these receiver group, they do not make the plays that we're used to seeing these Alabama receivers make. It's not even like they have to be spectacular plays. It's just like maybe a tough contested catch. Maybe it's a catch on the sideline, just pick up a first down. Like it's just so many uncharacteristic, just kind of not sharp things we're seeing from this Alabama offense. Like it feels like if Bryce Young isn't making a highlight reel Heisman plays, like this offense isn't really moving the ball. Like it was kind of crazy just to see. Like I think the game changed really when Zach Evans fumbled right there before the half. Like they're up 17-7 at that point, like going into the half potentially. And I think Alabama, I mean, obviously got kind of screwed at that point because they blew that play dead, and that should have been a scoop and score. But I feel like they were still fortunate to get that fumble right before the half and make it 17-14, because I don't feel like 17-14 really reflected how Ole Miss kind of dominated that first half. And so to get it to 17-14, I think that kind of gave Alabama the confidence. Like, we've played an awful 2 quarters of football, but we're still right here in this hostile environment. Like early on, I saw a Graham Coffey tweet early on. It was looking like this thing could get into a blowout. Like they were just moving the ball at will. And Graham Coffey tweeted out, like, if Ole Miss beats Alabama convincingly, like what do we do with Ole Miss in the playoff rankings? Like we got Tennessee up here at 5. They beat Alabama by 3 in this crazy game. If Ole Miss beats Alabama convincingly, like what are we going to do with them in the rankings? But as Ole Miss is probably used to playing Alabama, they always punch back. They always seem to answer everything. Ole Miss plays Alabama well, but they seem to find a way to win in the end. But yeah, I think you have to be worried about Alabama just in terms of like where this program is right now. Like this was supposed to be like the culmination of talent. Like, okay, last year, like people gave Saban a hard time for saying it was a rebuilding year, but like that 2020 Alabama team is like one of the greatest teams I think we've ever seen. So they lost like 12, 14 guys to the NFL draft, whatever it was, like 5, 6 first-round picks. It was reasonable to say, we're not going to be just elite of elite in 2021. But in 2022, we have the best defensive player in the country, the best offensive player in the country. Like we're loaded. And for this to be another the second 2-loss season in like 4 years, 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or 4 years, I should. So yeah, it feels like
Scott
the changing
Frost
of a
is coming to run the offense next year. They're fine. Like I'm not worried. I'm not the least bit worried about Alabama. Also, go ahead and lock that one in. He's the most obvious Nick Saban redemption tour candidate I think of this cycle. Scott Frost is winding up at Alabama.
You think so? Is he?
Yeah.
I don't even know. He was at Oregon. Under UCF, who? Yeah. Was he under Chip Kelly?
Yes.
So I don't know. We'll see. That's definitely an element that would play nicely at Alabama. It feels like they're going to clean house. Like there's something going on with this program. They just don't feel as sharp. They just don't feel as elite of elite like they once did. Yeah, they might still have a solid 10-2, win the bowl game, go 11-2, but they feel like the kind of team that's going to have a lot of opt-outs too, like for the bowl game. So I don't know. Does Bryce Young play in the Capital One Bowl? Like I would imagine not. I imagine Will Anderson's not playing in that game. So I don't know. It's strange territory for a Nick Saban team to be right now.
Still number 1 class for next year's cycle. They're going to be fine until Nick Saban in this.
Who's the starting quarterback next year?
That's a good question. I don't know. Ty Simpson?
Yeah, like it could be Ty Simpson. Like I'm blanking on
Jalen Milroe.
Milroe, there you go. I wasn't impressed with the little bit we got to see of Milroe this year. So I don't know. Yeah. I think there's some question marks. Who's the starting running back? Like, is it McClellan? Like Jahmyr Gibbs is gone. Like I don't know. These playmakers they hit the portal again. Like with Ricks and Jermaine Burton, it's like you're kind of maybe questioning how much they were going to the portal. Like I don't know. I think there's some question marks to ask about Alabama. LSU beats them year 1 of Brian Kelly. Like LSU, this could just be the tip of the iceberg for what a Brian Kelly LSU becomes. So I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. Also got to play the Vols every year. We can't stress how big time that rivalry could become again.
You never know. Let's go to speaking of LSU, let's go to LSU, Arkansas, Matt Green. LSU, another win differently. KJ Jefferson was not in this game. Malik Hornsby could not throw a forward pass, so that quickly ended for the Hogs. They go to a third-string quarterback in this one. He has one big play.
North Gwinnett guy.
Is he a North Gwinnett guy?
Cade Fortin, yes, sir.
There you go. Look at Gwinnett. Lanier was at Calzada. You got Sam Horn, Collins Hill going to Mizzou. Look, Gwinnett's just a QB factory all of a sudden for the SEC.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Hogs just could not pass at all. Raheem Sanders was shut down by LSU. And Harold Perkins, he had a strip sack to end this game late, but Brian Kelly after the game compared him to Michael Jordan. We learned so that is out there this week that he compared him to Michael Jordan. And then Perkins' final line: 2 forced fumbles, 4 sacks, and 8 tackles. He is a true freshman, correct? Like, he's not even a redshirt. He is a true freshman.
Yeah.
This is insane. He is unbelievable for the Tigers, and I'm glad he was not this good when Tennessee played him.
That's why he got one of my helmet stickers this week, sir. This LSU offense, which has been so good of late, just did not show up this week. What did Jaden Daniels have, like 85 passing yards in this one? Like, this offense really, and against Arkansas defense, it's just been getting torched by absolutely everybody. Like, this felt like a real, like, emotional letdown of a game. Like, if KJ Jefferson's playing, like, LSU just got beat this week. Like, I'm definitely convinced of that. They did not look good this week. But like you said, Harold Perkins, this man was like just a one-man wrecking crew. Like, four sacks. He was the reason that LSU was able to pull this one out. Even at the end, like, Arkansas still got the ball, like, with a chance to drive down and win it, but Perkins made the play to win it.
Absolutely. Matt Green, let's go to Penn State, Maryland real quick. Penn State, they shut out Maryland at home. Just a bloodbath, that one. Baby Tua, he goes 11 of 22, 74 yards, 3.4 yards per attempt, no TDs. Penn State ran all over him with Singleton and Allen, like, just all over Maryland. This was ugly. This was never close. I thought the big thing about this one, 7 sacks for Penn State here today for the Nittany Lions as they round in. They're just a solid top 10 team. Like, they're not a playoff team, but they're just a solid top 10 team. The funniest moment was James Franklin got an unsportsmanlike conduct in this game. Did you see this?
Oh, yeah, and
he did push-ups. I don't know if that's clownish or not. Where do you lie on this? I'll leave it to you. Is this a good look or just kind of like, okay, this is cringe? This is too much.
I feel like you could probably ask that question about 90% of the things that James Franklin does. It's like, I don't know. It's his shtick, I feel like. And the fact that you're the coach, I also don't know if that's a thing at Penn State, if you get a 15-yard penalty, if players do push-ups or something. Yeah. But I feel like I respected it because the coach, you're like, I got a 15-yard penalty. That's on me. I'll do my push-ups. Like, it was kind of cool. But you could kind of ask that. Like I said, James Franklin is kind of corny in his own way. Like, I respect his energy.
There you go. Matt Green, let's go to Florida, South Carolina. Florida absolutely embarrasses South Carolina at home. They're figuring it out. And this is what I said in the preview. Florida knows exactly who they are. South Carolina has no freaking idea what they want to be on offense. And it shows week after week. Florida's like, we're building running back you over here. We're going to run all over you. Etienne and Johnson have a big day in this one. They take the ball out of Anthony Richardson's hands through the air. They're like, this is who our identity is going to be, is we are going to run the football. We're going to play keep away, and we're just going to out-athlete you and out-muscle you over 4 quarters. And it's working. Like, Florida is clicking a little bit. So you can see what they're building there. I just don't know what they're building. I mean, 400 yards rushing for Florida in terms of the Gamecocks. Their only passing touchdown in this one, Matt Green, was a fake punt touchdown through the air. And that was it. Spencer Rattler, no TDs, no picks. Like, what is this? I don't understand what they're doing, but Marcus Satterfield, I don't think can be back as your OC going into next year if you're Shane Beamer. Like, you've got to just throw it out. And at South Carolina, you got to figure out who you are. Are you going to be a passing team? Or are you going to be a running back U team? You have Marshawn Lloyd, you have talent in the backfield, but like you got to figure it out. And Spencer Rattler did not solve their problems from a year ago at the quarterback spot. And their offensive woes goes way deeper, but this is just embarrassing. This is an embarrassing look for the Gamecocks and where they are. And Florida, I think, is trending in the right direction, and South Carolina looks horrific. What did you make of it, Matt Green?
Yeah, I think you about nailed it. I think there's not much more to add. I think Spencer Rattler, I feel like I wish I would have trusted my instincts on Spencer Rattler, our preseason predictions. I'm just like, I don't know, man. He's been pretty solid. He was good as a freshman at Oklahoma, but then once you start to think about it, it's like he's going to the SEC. He's no longer being coached by Lincoln Riley in this amazing offensive quarterback-friendly system. Like, I think he's just so much worse than anyone really expected him to be. Even the Rattler haters that were just like, he's not going to be good at South Carolina. South Carolina's not going 9-3. I think Chase Thomas is probably the head of that fan club of South Carolina is not going 9-3. What are we
said
smoking,
before
people?
the season that they were going to be lucky to make a bowl game. The South Carolina stuff was preposterous. And where are we at? They are, even if with a loss,
6-4 right now.
Yeah,
so they've made a bowl game.
That's it. You're going 6-6. I think they're going 6-6.
Oh, who do they have next week?
They have Tennessee and Clemson to end it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and they had Missouri. They got a Missouri team and then a Florida year one head coach. Like there were opportunities. Like this could have been an 8-4 type of season, and it's just not. Spencer Rattler's just not that guy. Florida, like you said, they have an identity. Anthony Richardson's 4 yards away from them having 3 100-yard rushers in this game.
Yep.
Just absolutely torched South Carolina on the ground. Anthony Richardson, I don't know why I still hear like if he comes back, Florida's going to be ridiculous. Insert whatever you're about to say about Florida's offense next year. Like this guy better come back. He's not going to the NFL. Like he's super talented, but he's clearly a run first dual threat quarterback. He's got to get a little bit better through the year, but yeah, I mean you had to be impressed. Like Florida is really kind of. It's funny that both these teams are 6-4 right now, but it feels. Florida's 6-4 feels so much better than South Carolina's 6-4 right now. I don't know what it is, but it feels like Florida's at least trending in the right direction to end the season. They got Vanderbilt and then Florida State. Florida State should be a really good one this year. So yeah, and also my favorite Florida unis they were rocking this week, the All Blues.
Those are good.
Classic look.
Classic look for sure. Matt Green, Tulane, UCF, bad beat by me. I knew like all week. I was like, I want you and just pick UCF. Just do it. Like, they're better athletes. Like Gus Malzahn's going to win this football game. It's in Tulane. All vibes. Love Willie Fritz and what they're doing with the Green Wave, who should be the 14th team in the SEC. That being said, they get down big early and they almost come back, lose by a touchdown. John Reese Plumlee, though. Just nobody like him, man. 18 carries for 176 yards, 9.8 yards per attempt, 2 TDs on the ground, man. They win the turnover margin. The Black Knights do 2-0, and it's hard to win at home against a good UCF team when you do that. What did you make of UCF winning this one, sir?
Yeah, I was really impressed with John Reese Plumlee. Do we have his measurables? Do we know what his combine numbers are? Because I see Taysom Hill all over this guy. I feel like this guy could be a legit playmaker in the NFL. I don't know. He's just so quick, so athletic. But yeah, seeing him, he's the workhorse back in this offense, basically. But yeah, coming in this game, I felt like Tulane had a really good defense, or the best defense in the AAC coming in. But UCF, they were a more balanced team, playing complementary football, like good offense, good defense. That's why I liked them coming in. But yeah, like you said too, better athletes. Tulane was a good story, but UCF still the best team in this conference.
Absolutely. Matt Green, let's go to Baylor, Kansas State. Are they still your Baylor Bears?
That was tough. They were gonna this gauntlet to finish the season. They were gonna have to run through it to make the Big 12 championship, and 31-3 at home. to the Wildcats is not the way you wanted to start it. But also, in my defense, I feel duped because Adrian Martinez only went 7 for 8 at this game. If I would have known Will Howard was playing, like we said before, like Kansas State's a different team with Will Howard. Adrian Martinez, I think this week maybe we finally made the decision that Will Howard is the guy for this offense. So yeah, Kansas State with him at the helm. I mean, this TCU Kansas State rematch, if we get it, that could be it could be a little different next time.
That's the thing too, right? Like, can you really go back to Adrian? Like, he gets hurt, wasn't benched, he gets hurt. I don't know. Like, maybe it's just like you keep waiting for Adrian. You give him the start every week, and it's like any sign of issues, we're going back to Will. Maybe Will is just the hot hand. He needs to be on the bench, and he needs to be ready to go. And teams don't game plan for Will Howard all week, and then you put Will Howard in there, 3 touchdowns, bam, out of nowhere. He's just the ready to go guy. I mean, this was huge. Will Howard was a difference maker for them. Can Kansas State make a decision on who they are as a football team? Like, can we just figure out who they want to be? Because they flirt with elite, like being the TCU of the conference and also being like the Iowa State. Like, they just have the dumb losses this year that you're like, what are you doing? Because then you do this on the road, which is extremely impressive. Like, what they did here, extremely impressive. And you just are like, can I go ahead? Can I pencil in that they're going to be great? I don't know. Will Howard has thrown 7 TD passes without an interception in the 3 quarters since filling in for Martinez. Like, you got to go Will Howard the rest of the way here. What are we doing? Got to make the full-time change, Colin Klein. Let's do it.
Also, to correct myself, Will Howard did get the vast majority of the snaps the first time they played TCU. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Baylor Bears, I think we can finally put a pin in their Big 12 championship hopes. I think that's over.
There you go. They're not out of it, though. If you look at it, Big 12 is a mess right now. The Big 12 outside of TCU is a mess, Matt Green. They'll need a lot of help. But
with Texas and Baylor losing this week, because they still play each other, too. So that's like an automatic loss on somebody's schedule coming. I guess you're right. Kansas State still has 2 losses. Yep. So there is a chance someone else can get in there. Who did Kansas State lose to in the conference? TCU, and did they lose to?
It was the dumb one. Wasn't it West Virginia? Who was it?
I need to pull it up.
Yeah, who did they lose to? Who was the other one? They play West Virginia this week. Who was the other dumb loss?
They lost to Tulane.
Tulane, that's what it was.
On. Oh, wait, no, so that's a non-conference. So they lost to Texas. Last week they lost to Texas.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Texas, TCU, and Tulane as their other.
Where they were at home. And it's just, what are you doing? Let's go to Wake, UNC. Your 2 dudes, Drake May and Josh Downs, Matt Green.
Yes, sir. Another one of my helmet stickers on the day. Josh Downs, obviously. Talk about Drake May every week. I don't want to sound like you and Sam Hartman, just going nuts over here. But yeah,
I'm not going nuts. It's the wives. They are the ones pushing that narrative. It's not us. We're just supporting.
He's getting his Matt Corral on in the running game, basically. His John Reese Plumlee, if you will. Like 19 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown on the ground, but 448 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I want to say he's up to like 35 touchdowns and like 3 picks on the season. I don't have those stats right in front of me, but he's just absurd once again. Like, they needed every single one of those points. Like, this game just went back and forth. But yeah, Josh Downs, 11 catches, another North Gwinnett product, by the way. 11 catches, 154 yards, 3 touchdowns. Gives him a helmet sticker for me on the day.
Oof. Well, it was great. Sam Hartman also had a great game. It's just kind of forgotten. And I think I talked about it on the pod where I was like, hey, you look at the history of this rivalry. If it's low scoring, go Wake. If it's high scoring, go UNC. And that's what it was. It just got kind of out of hand here for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons in this one. But, Drake May, awesome. The 11 catches, 154 yards, 14 yards per attempt, 3 TDs for Mr. Downs. Is just top-notch stuff. So kudos to UNC, and I'm excited for UNC Clemson. I think that'll be a fun game. Great uniform matchup in the ACC title game. So it's also just, life just goes like that, right? the teams that recruit the best are now going to play each other in the ACC title game. And then last year you had Pitt versus Wake, the non-traditional powers. It's just funny. It just, the pendulum goes back and forth. Like we get basically the teams who've just been the most dominant offensively and just most active in the recruiting and all that kind of stuff in UNC and Clemson. And then I don't know.
I really hope both those teams can take care of business. It'd be a one-loss conference title game. Any chance North Carolina like shows out, turns Charlotte into a home atmosphere?
I don't know. That stadium feels like it's never been that, right? Like, has anyone ever really taken over that stadium for a neutral site?
I think those Bulldog fans took it over last year with
Do you think
against
so?
Clemson. I don't even know, to be honest, but I never really heard that as a talking point on who if they did or not. But I don't know.
When they were at Tennessee and they took over in the third and fourth quarter of Tennessee, Georgia, in the second half. People forget that.
Absolutely. They tried to black it out.
They did.
It didn't work out too well. I actually heard some whispers of a takeover happen in Starkville this past weekend.
You'll have to ask my brother. He was there. It looked like a pretty good turnout.
They were trying to stripe the stadium or something like that. And it was absolutely nothing remotely close to looking like a striped out stadium. So I don't know if it was just lack of fan participation or if there's just a lot of Bulldog fans in there.
Or it's just too cold. You can only do that kind of stuff when it's not cold,
fans.
man. Like you cannot book this stuff when it's cold. Like once it's cold, it's
that
just
fair.
You can't do it.
I only have a certain number of jackets.
Right. I'm not going out to buy a certain jacket color just to make this color. No, it's not happening. I think it's just you can't do it.
That could be part of it. But yeah, North Carolina looks good. I really do hope we get a North Carolina Clemson matchup because it's gonna be
we are getting it. They both clinched.
Oh, that was clinched this weekend. Yeah. Styles make fights, as they say. So this is two very, very different style teams.
Final two here on the rundown. I'll just do the final one and then we'll hit some other stuff with Vols and Kentucky. Who I'm sure you have some thoughts on Kentucky here as they get in the CBS spot this Saturday. But Syracuse gets blown out by Florida State at home. Florida State, they're quietly cooking with grease with Benson and Travis. Travis almost the Grayson Lambert, the perfect Grayson Lambert number. 21 to 23 in this one.
Not even close to Grayson Lambert's impeccable. I think 25 of 26.
I'm sorry, 21 and 23 is not close.
We'll never see it again. 2 incompletions, that's easy. One incompletion. We'll never see a Grayson Lambert like performance. That's sent Steve Spurrier into retirement. He was like, Grayson Lambert's just balling. I don't know what else to do. Grayson Lambert, I just made look like Joe Montana. I'm gonna hang it up now, folks.
Syracuse had 9 first downs total in this game. They were 1-11 on third down and had 160 yards game. Dino Babers basically after the game was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna have to start over. We gotta figure something out because the points aren't coming in." Syracuse's season has fallen off the deep end now, so it's unfortunate, but Syracuse coming back down to earth post Clemson here. Vols curb stomp. Mizzou.
Before you move on, I'm going to that meme where it's like someone's like, "Oh, the Falcons used to be a good NFL team or something." It's like, "Oh, sure they were, Grandpa," and then they kind of walk them. That's what we're gonna remember this Syracuse season. Like, we were beating Clemson in the fourth quarter of a game. Yeah, okay, sure you are. Let's get you to bed. Like, Syracuse has just been a completely different team since that second half meltdown against Clemson. Like I don't know what happened to them, but yeah, they got to start from scratch. That's for sure.
That's a good analogy. Vols curb stomp. Mizzou. There was a lot after the game about the last touchdown bomb from Joe Milton to Squirrel White late in this one to give him 66. Tennessee broke the school record for single game yardage. They go for over 700 in this one on the Mizzou Tigers. 38-0 run for the Vols in the second half in this one. Dylan Sampson, who has just been out of it since the LSU game, not because he's hurt, he just hasn't played, and he just looks like he's going to be an absolute dynamo next year. And the combination between him and Wright, Jabari Small is fine. He's great in pass protection. That's his main thing, but he just doesn't have that burst. Dylan Sampson's fast as hell, man. And he's shifty, and he's just got another level to him. Jalen Hyatt gets back on track for this one. No Cedric Tillman, which didn't matter at all. Jalen Hyatt was awesome. Brew McCoy showing out. This was a big Brew McCoy game, which was important. Jeremiah Crawford got benched in this one, so monitor that. The left tackle spot's just not great for Hendon Hooker's blind side. So Gerald Mincy moves back into that spot. We'll see if that's the case at South Carolina this weekend. But the subs go in, and Tennessee still can't be stopped. I've said on this podcast all year long that the Tennessee Volunteers, the new Spurrier Florida Gators of the 90s, and that there's so many crossovers between the two, and people hated those Spurrier Gators. And if you remember, he ran up the score on the Georgia Bulldogs in the 90s. Do you remember that, where he had the touchdown pass to put him up 55? Did that give him 55? You know what game I'm talking about?
I personally don't remember it,
but you remember the game I'm talking
when they
about.
Went between the hedges. Yeah,
yes.
They scored 50.
And look, his thing was simple, and I agree with the sentiment. If you do this to Tennessee, I feel the exact same way. It's on record. I feel the exact same way. We're in a conference game. Like, we are in a conference. You play in the same conference as we do. You're an SEC team. We pulled our starters. What do you want us to do? It's like, if you want Milton to get an important rep, guess what Tennessee does all the time? Bombs. Like, you need to learn. We have to see what Milton, he's been overshooting. Like, he overshot those 1 billion times last year. We want to see where he's at in an in-game moment. Like, is it a better ball? And it's a better ball. Like, I'm not saying Joe Milton Heisman 2023, but I'm also not saying that. I don't think people are ready for the Spurrier part of this for the Vols, because you're going from Hendon Hooker to Joe Milton to Nico Maliava, and then Jaden Davis right after that 2024 kid. Like, it's just the Rolodex for these Tennessee offenses are just, I mean, look out. This isn't going anywhere. It's mean. It's aggressive. It's brutal. It's amazing that Jalen Hyatt still finds places to be completely wide open, and that happened multiple times in this game. Like, Josh Heupel is on another level, and I don't feel bad about it. And the Georgia fans are the worst about this, because look, the holding their nose of just like, oh, classless. The amount of stuff I saw after this game where it was like just all class. We had, look, friend of the pod, he's been on this show. He's been getting destroyed by Tennessee fans. I don't agree with this. Don't go after people personally. If they have a different take than you, just don't. It's bad. Don't do that. That being said, Chris Felica of the Bear, as you know, he tweeted, he's like, oh, I wonder what coaches in the committee thinks about Tennessee rubbing it in there. And it's like, you're not holding out Tennessee. You're like, oh, we're going to teach them a lesson by keeping Tennessee out of the playoff over USC because they scored that extra touchdown late against Mizzou. What do you mean they think about it? Like, what does that even, I don't understand that.
Well, I think that perspective is saying, like, are these for style points? Are you saying like, oh, you beating Missouri by 35 points, that's a good win. But beating them by 42 points, okay, now this is like a legit Tennessee win. I think that's what it's kind of sarcastic. Like,
but we need,
this isn't going to change this didn't change the perception of this game that just happened.
I would understand more if it was the starters. I really would. If it was the starters and Hendon Hooker still throwing bombs to Jalen in that moment, I'm probably going to give them a little bit more like, all right, that was probably a little much. What are you supposed to do? Like, I mean,
you understand. Throwing 60-yard bombs up 35
70,
points.
sir. That was a
there
beaut.
You go.
That was
That's
a
just
beaut.
Not, I mean,
70 air yards for senior day. The last stuff we'll see at Neyland for the rest of the year. Like, I don't want to see the end of Neyland for this year. Like, it's gone until next August. Like, I didn't want to see
Smokey Ten's last home game, right?
It's whose?
Smokey Ten. This was his final home game of his career.
No, I didn't have a problem with it. And it's just the faux outrage over that is just a little nauseating for me.
But I feel like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth here, though. It is bad sportsmanship.
No, it's not.
It is running. Hold on. No, can I finish? It is bad sportsmanship, but you're saying you're embracing it. We're going to be Spurrier of the Florida of the 90s. If you're going to be that, they were the villain, right? Like, they were the ones that threw touchdowns up 60, 70-0. Like, that's who they were. I mean, we've seen Tennessee athletics. That's what they want to be, right? That's what Tennessee baseball is. They're the villain of college baseball. So if Heupel wants to be this villain, then yeah, but that is what, you can't act like it wasn't poor sportsmanship to be throwing 70-yard bombs up 35 points with like 2 minutes left in the game. Like, what does that prove?
It's, again, part of our offense and not our starters. Like, it's literally an SEC game. You do not get to do, like, if it was Kent State, I get it. Tennessee Tech, I get it. Like, that's just rude. Mizzou, you are a SEC team. It's not our fault that you cannot stop this offense. Like
But
that
it
is
wasn't. But that's where I disagree. It's not just running your offense. Like you're
that's part of
throwing
our
bombs.
offense. What do you
Throwing.
mean? We had
If
the
you're
most
just
40-yard plays in college football this year.
They also run the ball a lot. It's like
Yeah.
that's part of your offense. So when you're up that big, you can just run the ball. This was personal for Josh Heupel and Eli Drinkowitz and whatever the opinion was about each other. There was clearly
let's just throw this out there. This is context. This is the context. 4 months ago, Drinkwitz went on Jim Rome and he said, quote, "I thought you were going to introduce my record," Drinkwitz said, "but with the latest allegations against Tennessee, let's hold up on what my record is because I expect them to vacate some wins, and that's going to help my record a bit." And then this week coming in that they had a blueprint for stopping Tennessee's offense. Like when you say this stuff out loud, these folks take notice. Like they remember the Jimbo, Nick Saban stuff. They all remember what's said out loud. Like it's bulletin board material. If you're going to talk, like when Will Levis is saying, what I don't even remember now. It's just the season where what did he say? A real offense, a real defense or something. I think he said real offense. Like Tennessee's not a real offense. All right, guess what? We're gonna drop 44 and just blow you out. These comments, I guarantee you, rubbed a lot of people at Tennessee the wrong way. What Drinkwitz said this summer, and I'm sure that's part of it. Is like, I'm going to get some wins back because Tennessee's going to get some wins vacated this year, and that's what you're jumping at. Like, you're going to get some wins back against Tennessee because they're going to lose some wins. That you didn't win the game, sir. You still lost, even if it doesn't go in the record book. Like, you still got absolutely obliterated at home last year. That's such a weird thing to promote. That and just start a feud with Heupel. And also Heupel did not.
Drinkowitz is I feel like has eaten it a couple times, trying to kind of talk shit, kind of throw shade here and there. We had Boston College last year, now Tennessee. Also, Heupel wasn't even there when Pruitt, when all the allegations and stuff happened. So maybe he could take that personal if he wanted, but it's also kind of commenting on the previous administration. But I don't know. You would definitely feel like a certain kind of way about someone throwing 70-yard touchdowns with 35 or 70-yard bombs with 35 point lead in the fourth quarter. It's who Tennessee is. They want to be the villain. They want to be this guy. They had to get their points per game back up after that performance against Georgia. They had to get back up to 50 or so. So, they want to do what they want to do. But it feels like kicking a man while he's down, just being the bully on the playground. That's what Tennessee wants to do. They can do that.
Oh my goodness. We'll end on two non-bullies in the playground. Vanderbilt beating Kentucky and ending their SEC losing streak. Just rock bottom for the Kentucky Wildcats. Mark Stoops is not leaving Kentucky anytime soon. I think this season probably reset that clock of if Mark Stoops gets a better job. Man, what a loss. What do you make of Kentucky going down at home to Vanderbilt?
Man, this was just, like I said to you earlier, sarcastically, Will Levis. Can we just stop the Will Levis hype train now? Mel Kiper has made all of college football world hate Will Levis. And it's not his fault that someone said he was a first-round pick or even a top 5 pick or whatever it was. Kentucky's just not. I mean, they even had Rodriguez had 160 yards on the ground in this one. And still just to have that bad of an offensive performance, against Vanderbilt, man, this was CBS is kicking themselves right now. I haven't looked at the SEC slate completely. I don't know what the next best game is because I think there's some
probably
of those
South Carolina, Tennessee. Honestly,
I think there's some of those November cupcakes on the schedule next week.
Yeah, next week is not great. Austin P, Alabama.
Yeah, so Georgia, Kentucky, 3:30 CBS. That's going to be an absolute bloodbath. And as much as you talk about South Carolina, I feel like that's kind of how I've talked about Kentucky. Yeah, they're a more respectable program than they once were, but nothing ever scares me about Kentucky. I just don't there's a ceiling that Kentucky has. And right now, they're not even hitting their ceiling. Losing to Vanderbilt, this is a huge win for Vanderbilt, but I think it's more of an indictment on Kentucky than anything else.
They get Florida at home next week. Do we see
Vanderbilt
back-to-back wins?
Right?
Yeah.
Who's Kentucky? or Kentucky's got Georgia and Louisville to end it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Yeah, I mean, without Florida's
Can Vanderbilt go bowling? They only have to beat Florida and Tennessee down the stretch.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to cross my. They did go over whatever their preseason win total. I would say they're safely over, but yeah, I don't think they're beating the Gators this week. This is in Nashville next week.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I don't think that's
one of the toughest places to play in college football. People forget that.
People do forget that.
Matt Green, anything else you'd like to add as we wrap up here on our Sunday Week 11 recap show, sir? Only 2 more weeks.
I will say, yeah, this season has flown by. You better be worried. Better be looking over your shoulder for those for this pick'em. It's really coming down to the wire. But yeah, this is if Tennessee and Georgia make the playoffs, this is going to be incredible for the pod. So we can cross our fingers that South Carolina Gamecocks don't ruin this magical season.
All chaos on this pod. Because like if that happens, guess what? Man, we just on record, November 14th, Tennessee and Georgia make the playoff. That's the national championship. Is Tennessee Georgia. And if we get the national championship Tennessee Georgia for this podcast, I don't even know. And Georgia fans and Tennessee fans who really hate each other now. Like Twitter, I don't know if it is a representative of just national, but man, the animosity and Georgia fans who are by and large the colonists classless and this, that, and the other, and just rubbing it in, the drubbing in Athens. I'm telling you, that is going to be something to behold. I'm going, by the way. I don't know if you're going to plan on going, but let's make a deal right now. If they're in, I mean, I'm in. Like, I'm going. I'm absolutely going to the national title. I don't know what it takes because I don't know if Tennessee will ever get back in my lifetime. I'm going. You just got to
If the first round was any indication on what the price of those tickets are going to be, then I don't think there's any chance in hell. It's going to be SoFi Stadium, right?
Yeah.
National championship this year. So, yeah.
What can Maddox fetch?
I'm not following.
I mean, he's a purebred German Shepherd, right? Or Zeus?
Oh, whoa! You want to get Tori to stop listening to the pod right now, sir? You better take those words back.
That new lawnmower, though, the ride lawnmower. Is it time to auction that one off?
The Aaron Murray, man. I would never sell the Aaron Murray. That's a quality machine there. But no, it's going to be huge. I can only imagine the anticipation for that game if we get it. But there's a long way to go before.
But it's not that long. We got 2 more regular season weeks, and then Tennessee season's over. Then they're just sitting. Like it's we'll know pretty soon, sir, how this is going to go.
Yeah, Tennessee just sitting there waiting. I will say, from a Georgia fan perspective, without playing in the conference championship, it's hard to think you're too much in control of your destiny. I still have nightmares of the 2007 season where Ohio State didn't play the final week, still wasn't a Big Ten championship. They were number 3. Georgia didn't play in the SEC championship, was number 4. Number 1 and number 2 lost. Ohio State jumped to 1, and Georgia dropped to 5. And I'll never understand how it happened. But that was the one that got away for the Dogs. But Tennessee looks like they'll have some more, like they got more going in their side this year. But yeah, it's this thing coming down to the wire, man.
Absolutely. Matt Green, always a pleasure, my friend. Follow him on Twitter, Matt_David_Green. Follow myself, Chase_Thomas, all that good stuff. Until Thursday, or it'll go up on Thursday. And until Wednesday, I will talk to you very soon.
Yes, sir.